So to use the half angle formulas to calculate pi over 8, you first have to know what angle they are half of. So pi over 8, since they're all using that, that's pi over 4 over 2. They're half of pi over 4. So in our formulas, we'll use that. So for sine, the half angle formula for sine is sine u over 2 equals plus or minus the square root 1 minus cosine all over 2. So u is pi over 4 because it's pi over 4 over 2. So we plug that in and we get 1 minus cosine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. All over 2. And you have to look at pi over 8 to determine if it's plus or minus. Pi over 8 is in quadrant 1, where sine would be positive. So we're only taking the positive answer here. And then we can simplify that a little bit to be you can clear out the fractions by multiplying everything by 2. So that's 2 minus the square root of 2 all over 4. And since we have a square root of 4 in the denominator, we can simplify that to just be a regular 2. So there's our answer for sine. For cosine, it's almost the identical formula. It just changes the minus to a plus. So cosine u over 2 is plus or minus square root 1 plus cosine all over 2. Again, looking at our pi over 8, since that's in quadrant 1, cosine is also positive, so we're only taking the positive square root. And then it's 1 plus cosine of pi over 4 square root of 2 over 2. All over 2. And then follow the same steps to simplify. So think of that as over 1 and over 1. Multiply everything by 2. So you get 2 plus the square root of 2 all over 4. And then square root of 4 in the denominator just simplifies to 2. So there's cosine. And then at this point, since you've already done sine and cosine, the easiest thing for tangent, we just take sine over cosine because that's what tangent is, rather than doing the formula again. It'll be sine, which is square root 2 minus square root of 2. And then the 2's and the denominators are going to cancel out. So it'll just be over the square root 2 plus square root of 2. So here's a similar question, but with degrees this time. 112.5, that is half of 225. So when we use our half angle formulas, we'll be using u is 225. And for sine, plus or minus the square root So the plus or minus comes from what quadrant 112.5 is in. That is in quadrant 2. So sine will be positive. And it's 1 minus cosine of 225. So 225 is the 45-degree angle in quadrant 3. So it is negative, and it's the 45-degree angle, so it's square root of 2 over 2. All over 2. So you can simplify that to be 1 plus square root of 2 over 2, all over 2. And you can simplify that fraction within fraction by multiplying everything by 2. So you get 2 plus the square root of 2 over 4, which will simplify to be, when you take the square root, it'll just be a 2. Follow pretty much the same steps for cosine. Pretty much the same formula. It's 1 plus cosine. Since we said 112 degrees, 112.5 degrees is quadrant 2, that means it's negative because cosine is negative in quadrant 2. And that'd be 1 plus cosine of 225, still negative square root of 2 over 2, all over 2. Clear out the fraction, so multiply everything by 2, so that's 2 minus square root of 2 over the square root of 4, which is just 2. And then at this point, easiest thing for tangent is just take sine over cosine. So sine over cosine. So there's tangent, there's cosine, and there's sine.